So what would you say to those people who will carry on following these stories about fire and industrial action by firefighters and say it's responsible to be walking out this time of year?
In terms of whether the action is dangerous for people, what we have to look at is we provide cover to the public 365 days a year. This is the third industrial action called in the fire service, in the Fire Brigades Union, in 40 odd years. Now, if you're talking about what's putting the public at the greatest risk, we should be talking about cuts, because cuts affect people every day. And the cuts that are going through in this country at the minute, they're affecting the speed and weight of attack that we are able to make when we have incidents of fire or flooding or building collapse, as we've seen in London last week. But yet nothing seems to be said and done about that. And the media doesn't want to focus on that. What they talk about is there are a few hours here and there where we're on strike to try and raise the issue and push the government to actually have meaningful negotiations.
Jamie, I wish you a Merry Christmas. Jamie Newell from Luton, Secretary of the Bedfordshire Fire Brigade Union. This is BBC Three Counties Radio. Good afternoon. 21 and a half minutes past 4 o'clock. A petition raising concerns that Kempston Fire Station could be downgraded is being discussed by Bedford councillors this evening. Now, local people fear a review by the fire service will mean the Kempston base losing its full-time firefighters. That's a claim that's been denied by the Beds and Herts Fire Service. Well, let's talk to Jamie Newell. Jamie is the Secretary of the Bedfordshire Fire Brigades Union. Jamie, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Robert.
What have you been told about the proposals in Bedford and Kempston?
Well, we were briefly given a heads up just before Christmas on 4 or 5 options with regards to budget saving effectively for the community risk management plan, which every service has to do every year. Kempston's effective downgrading and merger with Bedford Fire Station is one of those. Other sorts of plans they're suggesting are double jumping appliances at Luton, so that's the same crew riding 2 or more motors.
What are your main concerns about reducing staff in the town, Jamie?
Well, in terms of the reduction in crewing and appliances, you need a certain number of appliances and firefighters to deal with certain types of incidents. Now, the integrated risk management plan, as it's called nationally, the key word is risk management plan. Now, what fire brigades around the country are doing at the minute is they're reducing or adjusting their resources according to the government budget. Every brigade's had their budget cut due to a reduction in government grant. So they are playing on words with regards to their plans to justify this reduction according to the budget, not necessarily dealing in terms of the risk.
This review, as you've said, is taking place across the county. You've mentioned this idea that Luton could have to double team their rescue vehicle with you. What does that mean?
Well, at Luton we have 2 rescue appliances, so 2 fire engines as people would see them, and we have something called an aerial platform, which is a ladder. It's a large ladder, which is it's quite important for a town like Luton with the number of high-rise buildings that we have. So anything that's 4 floors or above, that will get turned out to if there's an incident. In fact, it went to a job, I believe, on the early hours on Monday morning. There was a roof fire in a townhouse, which took the 2 appliances from Luton, 1 from Stopsey, and I believe it was the downgraded Toddington appliance, which is retained, plus the aerial platform. So in terms of the new proposals that the brigade might be pushing for, one of the 2 appliances at Luton wouldn't actually be able to do both jobs. It would either go on the aerial platform or it would go on the fire engine. So you can have one or not the other.
What are and I know the Kempston Fire Station, I know all these fire stations clearly, but the Kempston Fire Station has been there an awful long time. But some people might argue, well, actually, Kempston is part of Bedford. You don't need a separate station at Kempston. You can do it all from Bedford Station.
Well, this is the thing about the risk management plans. At some point, it was deemed necessary to have those 2 stations as they are. Now, Kempston itself is actually strategically placed with regards to the 421 and the motorway junction 13 for the M1. Now, at the recent Chris Dingle show, which is something that our service does every year, they have a Christmas show, the Chief Officer reported there had been an increase in road traffic collisions. Presumably that might be because of the opening up of the motorway. As you know, for a number of years now it's been on reduced running due to the developments, but that's opened up, and so over the last 12 months or so we've seen an increase in road traffic collisions. In terms of road traffic collisions, we used to talk about something when I first joined called the golden hour, which is the time of an incident being or happening to getting that person to definitive medical care, which would be hospital. Now, with the different cutbacks, the increase in attendance times, the problem that ambulance services having reduced funding, we've basically seen that golden hour being thrown out the window, and it's just about clock stopping, because that's what they're reporting back to the government.
This review, Jamie, is in its very early stages. How likely do you think it is that it will be implemented?
It depends on how you play lip service to the consultation. Now, the consultation will have a framework from which they talk to the public. There'll probably be an announcement that you can do a SurveyMonkey online, which you can go onto the BedFire website and take part in the consultation. What they did last year was they basically invited 90 people to go to 2 stations from the public, and they said it was reflective of the demographic of Bedfordshire. And they gave them a set series of questions, but they wouldn't let them deviate from the answers that they gave them within the consultation program. So, for example, one that I went to, they reported on the number of fire deaths. Now, I raised a question being there saying that fire deaths are subjective to how a coroner reports the cause of death. Now, if someone dies in a fire, actually in the building, then that will be recorded as death by fire. But if they are rescued and then treated at hospital and die there, there might be other complications, and so the coroner will rule it another way. So,
Jamie,
in terms of the options...
Okay. That meeting is taking place tonight. We did ask Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue to join us on the programme, but they declined. They've issued us with a statement. Let me read you some of the statement. It reads, the Fire and Rescue Authority currently has no proposals in place to change crewing arrangements at Kempston or Bedford fire stations. It goes on, we have met with our staff and also with some members of the public to discuss our community risk management plan. In addition, our Deputy Chief Fire Officer Glenn Ranger and Assistant Chief Fire Officer Dave Fothergill attended a Town Council meeting chaired by the Mayor of Kempston, at which options were presented and a range of questions were answered. The Town Council were informed that one potential option could involve looking more closely at the crewing arrangements of both Bedford and Kempston fire stations to see how this could reduce overall risk to the public from fires and road traffic collisions. And it goes, ultimately, elected members of the Fire and Rescue Authority would have to approve any significant future changes. What do you make of all that?
Well, they're saying that there's been no definitive answers given, so, and that's true from a certain point of view. Like I said, they've got these 4 or 5 options that they're floating around, and over the next couple of years, we may see 1 or 2 of them coming through. In terms of, they'll say that the downgrading the changing of Kempston from being a whole-time station, which is full-time, to retained status, which is part-time, is not a downgrading, because a firefighter is a firefighter. But what it does do is it affects the attendance time, because there's an increased duration while you wait for the part-time firefighters to come into the station, get their kit, get on the appliance and go, which you don't have when the whole-time station's there. And this is something that we saw in Toddington when they downgraded that from a full-time station down to solely retained. And they forgot basically to do the FSEC modelling, which is a program which assesses how long it takes for people to turn in.
Jamie?
So they had to reduce their fire ground as a result.
Let's see what happens at that meeting tonight. Thank you for joining us. I wish you well. Jamie Neal's Secretary of the Bedfordshire Fire Brigades Union. These stories are important, and we are across as many of them as we possibly can be. Watford General yesterday, Bedford Hospital, Bedford and Kempston Fire Services. These are important stories because it matters to you across Beds, Herts and Bucks. And you've got to keep your eyes peeled.